what we did yesterday. Right, today is easy, all right? Because everybody knows how to multiply fractions together. And we'll just start with question number 1. Now remember, if you're multiplying fractions, you just have to reduce them. All right, so in order to reduce this, I want you to take the 5 and the 10. You just say 5 goes into 5 one time. 5 goes into 10 twice. 3 goes into 3 once. 3 goes into 9 3 times. Then my recommendation is just make a fraction bar. Take care of the numbers first. Do the variables last. So in this case, the top is just 1 times 3, and the denominator is 1 times 2. Everybody see that? Now, I like to write in alphabetical order. So how many x's are on the top? 1, right? So it's just x. And then y squared over y. Yeah, just leaves a y on the top. Everybody okay with that? That's pretty easy, right? All right, so let's take a look at number 4. Let's just reduce. All right, so 2 goes into 2, and 2 goes into 6. Beautiful. And then the 12 and the 3 can reduce to 4 and 1. So again, the top is 1 times 4. The denominator is 3 times 1, which is 3. Everybody see how easy? And now, how many x's are on the top in total? 3. Does everybody agree? So that leaves me what? X what? X to the third on the top. How many y's on the top? How many on the bottom? So that leaves me with 2 on the bottom. Thank you. And now I'm looking at the z's. What do I have on the top? On the bottom? So your final is 1 on the top. It's very simple, guys. Very simple.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Any questions? So we just did 1 and 4. All right. Now let's talk about question number 7. Now for question number 7, I like to give myself a little room. So I'm just going to copy it real quick. And I'm going to put it off to the right a little bit. All right. Now I have more room to work with. Okay? Now, I'm trying to show you how simple it can be if you pay attention. Who can tell me probably what factor is in the numerator? What factor is definitely going to be in the numerator up there? No, definitely not. There's definitely going to be a what? 3x plus 4y. How did I know there was going to be a 3x plus 4y? Because there is a 3x plus 4y on the bottom. So everybody see, it's going to help you do the factoring. Now, if it's 3x plus 4y, the other factor is going to be what? 3x minus 4y. Now, what probably is on the bottom? A what? An x plus 4 is on the bottom. All right, now if an x plus 4 is on the bottom, okay, that's good. Just pay attention. All right, so I'm trying to get 2x squared. So what's the other right side going to start with? A what? 2x, exactly. Now I want it to be a negative 20. So it's going to be minus 5. Now, I always try to remind kids, sometimes they can play a trick on you, so you want to double check your work. So what do I mean by that? That's 8 minus 5, positive 3. Everybody okay with that? So we know we're right. All right, now all we do is we go and we cross things out. X plus 4, x plus 4, 3x plus 4y, 3x plus 4y. So equals 3x minus 4y over 2x minus 5. Any questions? Any questions? All right, so let me grab another one. Let's grab number 10. So a minus 3 squared. Does everybody see that? Mm-hmm. All right. There's nothing really you can do with that. I'm not asking you to multiply that out. You want to leave things in factored form, and that is factored. So what does a squared minus 6a plus 9 probably have in it? Yeah, and of course you guys know it does. So we're going to put in a minus 3, and then the other factor would be what?
A minus 3.
A minus 3, exactly. Which is nice because what happens to these two a minus 3's? They cancel with these two a minus 3's. Which probably means, what about the next one? It's going to have an a minus 3 also. And then the other one is going to be a plus 6. Very good. So that's going to be a plus 6. And so now what happens? So your final answer is just what? A plus 6. All right, I'm totally happy. All right, so now what I want you to do is I want to see about 14. All right, I'm going to grab 14, put it over. And now I just want to remind you on this one, you always have to make sure you factor out the what? GCF. So take a look at that. The denominator, 4t minus 8. What can I do to that? Factor out a what? 4. Right? So that becomes 4 parentheses what? T minus 2. Now I'm going to cross that out because I don't want to confuse myself. Then 16 minus 12, what does that do? We're factoring out a 6. So then that becomes t minus 2. And then I cross that out. All right? And so now what? Now I like to tell kids, reduce the numbers first. Reduce the numbers first. So what do I want to look at? I want to look at the 5, the 10, the 6, and the 4. That's what I want you to focus on. So what happens to the 5 and the 10? 1 and a 2. And then what about the 6 and the 4? 3 and 2. Now, in my opinion, the easiest thing to do is just multiply the numbers. 1 times 3, 3. 2 times 2, 4. Now I'm looking at the t cubed and the t. What am I left with? T squared on top. And then what happens to the t minus 2's?
They cancel.
They cancel. Somebody agree? That's kind of easy. If you know how to factor, it's really simple. All right, it's really simple. All right. So now what I want to do is I want everybody to draw a line under 22. All right. I kind of made a little mistake, and I'm going to show you something tomorrow. Remember the perfect cubes I was talking about? Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's kind of in here, so I'm gonna go ahead and show you that. Even though it's not going to be a big component on your test, I do want to show you that. I think it's important. All right, even though it's an Algebra 2 topic, it's really simple. All right. So now this right here will definitely be tomorrow. All right, that will be tomorrow. All right, but I want to pick another one. Let's do question number 21. So everybody grab 21, move it off to the side, and let's see if you can do it. A lot of factoring, guys, okay? A lot of factoring. So I'm just going to walk around the room and see what you're doing. Factor, factor, factor. Where is it? And don't forget, every time you should be saying GCF. Does it have a GCF? All right, let's see how far you got. All right, in my opinion, I always just look for the easiest ones to start out with. So 7x minus 49. What's common? 7, right? So here we go. 7 parentheses x minus 7. So the numerator of that, what's common?
X.
That's right. So x parentheses, what's left?
4x squared minus 9.
Okay, so now you have to be careful because 4x squared minus 9 could actually what?
Factor.
That breaks down more. Thank you. All right. So I have x and then 2x plus 3 and 2x minus 3. And then I cross that out because I don't want to accidentally cross something out twice. Anybody have any issue with that? Now the denominator. What's the GCF in the denominator? X squared. So now I have x squared parentheses, what is that?
2x.
Uh-oh. 2 what?
2x minus 3.
Should be 2x minus 3 because you pulled out x squared, not x. All right, fix that. And now, the top one is kind of easy to factor. You guys should be excellent at that. And now, just take your time to cross things out properly. All right? Now, again, my recommendation is always look for the numbers first. The only number I see is a what?
X minus 3.
Well, I mean a constant, right? So a 7. So technically, that fraction is what? 1/7. Is it necessary to put the 1 on the top?
No.
Probably not. Okay? Now I'm looking at just my variables. I have an x and an x squared. So x on the bottom. And now it's just a matter of crossing things out. 2x minus 3, 2x minus 3. X minus 7, x minus 7. Everybody agree?
Mm-hmm.
So now, what's left on the top?
X plus 5 is 2x plus 3.
Come on, does everybody agree that's really not bad? So just factor, 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 cross out.
How do you know that the 7 goes on the bottom instead of the top?
Well, where is it in the fraction itself? On the top or the bottom?
Oh, it's on the bottom.
That's right. Yes, ma'am.
Sorry, why is there an X on the bottom?
Because there's an, so I'm going to highlight, you tell me if you see it. There's an X right here, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's an X squared here.
Oh, X on the top and X.
X on the top, X squared on the bottom. So there's one up top, two on the bottom, so you cross out. There's one left at the bottom. You agree with that? All right. Now, I'm just going to introduce the formula for you. I'm going to introduce the formula, and then tomorrow we'll continue with the discussion. All right? So I need everybody to write this down. Bless you. And actually, why don't you do this? Let's create a new page. Does everybody know how to create a new page?
Yes.
Add a page. And then it just adds something right below. All right? Now, what I want you to do now is I want you to write the rule. We're going to do this. You're going to tell me x cubed plus y cubed. Right? It's kind of like a rule like we did for x squared minus y squared. So x cubed plus y cubed. It's really just a pattern. All right, so here's what the pattern is. It's just going to be x plus y. Then it's always the x squared. Then it's always the opposite sign, minus. Then you multiply x and y together. Then you square the last term. All right, that's how I teach it to kids. All right, that's the rule. Now, the next one is x cubed minus y cubed. Somebody tell me how to start that. What do you think it would be? X minus y, perfect. Then x squared plus xy plus y squared. All right, the last term is always plus. So generally what happens is when you're factoring here, we say these are the same signs here, opposite signs here, and then it's always addition. All right, now I'm going to put a problem up here. I'm going to see if you understand what I mean. All right, so if I ask you to factor x cubed minus 8. Come on now, all you're doing now is you're just plugging numbers into the formula. So the first parentheses would be what? X what? What if I said it was x minus 2? Why is it 2?
Because the cube root of 8 is 2.
That's right, cube root of 8 is 2. Or 2 times 2 times 2 is what? 8. X times x times x is x cubed. Is everybody with me? All right, so now the next rule is to square the first term. So the first term is x. So when I squared, it would just be x squared. Opposite sign. So it would be what? Plus. Multiply them together. 2x. And then square the last term. 4. Because 2 squared is 4. So I agree, just a simple pattern. Just really just a simple pattern. All right, you definitely do that in Algebra 2, not so much in Algebra 1, but you guys are smart enough to handle that. All right, so now I'm going to write another one. Let's see if you learned something. Let's say I said it was a cubed plus 27. A cubed plus 27. What would the first one be?
It would be a plus plus. It would be x plus 9. Or x.
Well, we're starting out with variables.
Or a plus. Or a plus.
Now remember, you're asking yourself the question, what times what times what is 27? That's why it's 3, not 9. That's all right. All right. Does everybody see? It's 3. So it's the same sign starting out. So it'd be a plus 3. Then square the first term, which is what? A squared. Opposite sign. Opposite sign. Minus. Multiply them together. 3a. And then square, which is? That's not hard. What? Yes, that's a complete factor. You'll never, that's a really good question actually. You'll never be able to factor this over here. All right? You'll never be able to factor that. Okay? All right, one more time. If you can do this one, then you understand completely. I'll make it a little bit harder. All right, so here we go. If I ask you to factor something like 64x cubed minus 125. And I want someone to be able to tell me what the first term is. All right? So here and here. All right? Noel, what do you think it is? Remember, you're asking yourself a question. Very good. Very, very good. Very good. 4x minus 5. Very nice. So you understand why he said 4x minus 5? Because 4x times 4x times 4x is 64x cubed. And what's 5 times 5 times 5? There you go. Very simple, very simple. So now listen to my explanation. I square the first term.
16.
16 what? 16x squared. Opposite sign. Plus. Multiply them together. 20x. Good job. And then square the last term. Come on, come on. Plus 25. All right, so guys, believe it or not, that's actually pretty hard. All right, does everybody agree it's just formula-based though, right? Yeah, you just have to understand what the formula means. All right? So again, that's not going to be probably on the test, but for the worksheet, we're going to do it. All right. That might be a good idea. All right? So here we go. Now, if you know how to multiply, then you probably know how to what? Divide. So you have to think back to the good old days. When I said this, 3/4 divided by 5/2. How do we do that? What is it? Yeah, you multiply by the reciprocal. Guys, listen to me. Simple, simple, simple. Multiply by the reciprocal. All right? So if I'm looking at question 29, all right, that's the same as, I want everybody to write out 28 p squared q to the 4th, and I like to just put over 1 because we're dealing with fractions, times 5r over 4pq to the 4th. Everybody okay with that? No problems, right? Okay, so now we're back to what we did. Guess what? Right back up here. There's absolutely no difference. Everybody good on that? No difference whatsoever. All right, so here we go. So again, my advice is to always take care of the numbers first. So 28 becomes a, 4 becomes a, 7 times 5 is. So again, I just like to put 35 over 1. The 1 obviously doesn't have to be there. Now how many p's up top? How many on the bottom? So I'm left with. And then what happens to the q's? And what about the r? R on top. Now look, remember what I'm trying to ask you guys. If you're not sure about something, you're supposed to speak up.
So can it just be 35?
Yep, 35 PR. If you wanted to, you could just erase and just put 35 PR. Yes.
So you cross reduce?
Yes, you're
but you
reducing.
don't cross multiply?
No, we're not. Cross multiplying is when there's an equal sign. Somebody else did that on the test and almost got a 0. Because x times, it was like x over 3 times y, and they accidentally thought it was a what? An equal sign. If there's an equal sign, you cross multiply. When you're just multiplying or dividing, we say you cross reduce. Right? You can reduce diagonally, you can reduce vertically, not horizontally. What?
So you reduce and then times by the denominators?
Yeah. Then you multiply the numerators, multiply the denominators. And I always tell kids, if you ever forget, just think back to the good old days when you did 2/3 times 7 over 11. That's just what? 14 over 33, because they don't reduce. Agreed? That's exactly right. If you ever have trouble, think back to your 5th and 6th grade when you were multiplying and dividing fractions, how that was just the hardest thing in the world. Right? Some of you almost repeated because of it. All right, here we go. So, let's do this. Here's what your assignment. What time do we get out today? Is that right? 10:08? All right, so here is what I want your homework to be. All right? I'm going to take it easy on you. All right? So I really want you to just make sure that you have the first 14 done. All right? Get the first 14 done. All right? Now, I want also, you see how mine, if I'm looking at that, it's kind of hard to see, right? Because it's, right? But that's the way I want you to do it on your iPad, right? I don't want you to try to squish it in here. Like, I don't like this. Does everybody see that? So just copy it, move it over a little bit, and then you have plenty of room to do all the problems. Right? If you're out of room, you can add a page and bring it down or do something. All right? I don't want you just crossing things out. Now, the first several right here, I don't really care if you cross those out, right? Because there's not a lot of factoring involved. It's just reducing. All right? So again, multiplying and dividing is the same. Make sure you knock out 1 through 14. Make sure you knock out 1 through 14. Any questions? All right, very good day.